At the moment, we are still in Genesis chapter 5. That is where we are. Last episode, we stopped right in the middle of an important lesson. In Genesis chapter 5, God specially pointed Enoch out among his contemporaries. And the question we are asking ourselves is, why did heaven stop to point Enoch out to us? Why? What brought Enoch to heaven's attention? What set Enoch apart from his contemporaries? These are type of the question that we are asking. What is the secret of his life? And obviously, we are asking ourselves, what lesson can we learn from Enoch? And that is what we are trying to do. And last episode, we started getting some answers to some of these questions. We saw that Enoch, in a certain way, is a type of the church. His life is a message to the church. Though he lived among a crooked and corrupt people, his contemporary were corrupt, his contemporary were crooked, yet he lived a life that was pleasing to God. His world was a world that was doggedly walking away from God, but Enoch walked with God. So we are going to read once again Genesis chapter 5 from verse 21 to 24. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah, verse 22. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and it was not, for God took him. Now let's read Hebrews chapter 11. We are reading from verse 5. We are reading verses 5 and 6. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God has translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony that he pleased God. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. We said that the sense of the original word that is translated for us in English as diligently seek, the sense is that of craving, of striving after something. It is to seek after in order to find. It describes someone who will not take no for an answer. Now, this craving, this diligently seeking craving, is exactly what we see in David. So Psalm 42 verses 1 and 2, and we are going to read from the Amplified. As the deer pants longingly for water brook, so my soul pants longingly for you, O God. My soul, my life, my inner self thirst for God, for the living God. When will I come and see the face of God? Psalm 63 verse 1. O God, thou art my God, early will I seek thee. My soul thirsted for thee, and my flesh longed for you in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. The psalmist says that early will I seek thee. What is the implication of that? To seek God early is to seek God diligently. That is what the psalmist is saying. That is another way of saying we are seeking God diligently. But I want to actually pay more attention to that Psalm 42. Over there, the psalmist says, as the deer pants longingly for water brook, so my soul pants for you, O God. So the question is, how does a deer pants after water? Because I believe that this is something we can take lesson from. Okay, now when you look at the guide for people that go into the wilderness, what they call wilderness guide, it refers to the rule of three. The rule of three, which says that on the average, remember we are talking average here, that on the average, human can live for 3 minutes without oxygen, that's without air, 3 minutes, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Just like other animals, deer need water for survival. A deer will seek water after being chased and hunted by predators. The deer will pant or cry for water, and knowing very well that his survival depends on it. And what does the deer do? It will drink deeply from the water. The deer will be refreshed, renewed, and will be full of life. A man or a woman that walks with God is one that hungers and thirsts after God. after God's kingdom, after his righteousness, and thirst after eternity, but as a matter of survival. Seeking God cannot be like a casual sipping of water. It must be a thirsting, a craving, a striving that is never satisfiable by God himself. So the question again is, how does a deer pant after water? We have seen number one. Number two is the fact that deers can swim. When a deer is being chased or hunted by predators, it runs and jumps into the water. And thereby, when it does that, it loses the scent, because a lot of these predators can smell them out. But once they jump into the water covers their scent. And then the predator lose sight of them. They escape their predator thereabout. And it is the same thing with us, that a man or a woman that walks with God, they run to the living water to have their thirst satisfied, but also to be washed, to be cleansed, and to be protected. You remember Proverbs chapter 18, verse 10. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 10 says that the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it, and they are saved. Number three, the deer also, we are told, also run to the water when they have been injured. That is their natural instinct. That is their natural response to injury. When they've been hurt, they run into the water. So we are seeing here what it actually means. In the lesson that we learn from the deer, we are seeing here what it means to, number one, walk with God and thereby be pleasing unto him, which comes as we diligently seek him. Now, what I want to do now is I want to quote extensively portion from one of my resource books, is the McLaren's exposition on the book of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6 that we are considering, because it speaks about God and seeking him diligently. So this is a quote from, it's going to be an extensive quote. We have to seek, but let us never forget that we must have been found of him before we seek him. Thus, we have to seek where and what we know. Our quest is no doubtful or miserable hunting about for a possible good, but an earnest desire for a certain and solid blessing. That is the seeking. That is to say, he must have revealed himself to us in the fullness and reality and solid certainty of his existence and character before there can be kindled in any heart or mind the desire to possess him. He must have flashed his light upon the eye before the eyes behold, and he must have stimulated the desire by the revelation of himself, which come before all desire, ere any of us will stir ourselves up to lay hold upon God. Ours then is not to be a doubtful search, but a certain seeking that goes straight to the place where it knows that it is treasured. He said our seeking must be because God has already shined the light into our heart. Okay, God must have first of all flashed the light of the revelation of himself into our heart before we can seek him. And he ended there by saying that ours then is not a doubtful search. It's not a doubtful search, but a search of certainty that goes straight to the place where it knows that it will be treasured. Now, let's read more. The prime requisite of the Christian seeking after God is, as the writer says here, talking about Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6, is as the writer says here, faith must believe that he is. We do not seek after negations or hypotheses. We seek after a living being. Let me put three things as is included in and necessary to the Christian seeking: desire, effort, and prayer. Desire, effort, and prayer. We seek what we desire, and that is very, very important. We seek what we desire. Is there an aching void in his absence, or do we shovel cartloads of earthly rubbish into our hearts, and therefore, or does dull desire that can be satisfied only by him? The measure of our seeking is actually settled by the measure of our desire, and I think this is a very, very important point. We seek what we desire. Okay, it is the measure of my desire that will motivate my seeking. Let's go on. If we are seeking after God, there will be effort to bring him into connection with all our works, effort to keep by him as we go about our daily task. If we are truly seeking after God, and then desire and effort being presupposed, there will come honest prayer. So we have desire, we have effort, and then there will be honest prayer, genuine prayer. You know, when you read Isaiah chapter 55 verse 6, it says, seek the Lord while he may be found. That is Isaiah 65 verse 6. And then immediately after that, it goes on to exhort us to call upon him while he is near. So we see here that there will come, after desire and effort, there will come honest, genuine prayer. And this is one of the chief ways for us to seek the Lord. Let me put all this together. What have we learned so far from the life of Enoch? Number one, that just like in the days of Enoch, the church today is living in the middle of a crooked and perverse generation, a world that hates God with a passion. That is where we are. That is where we live. But we are putting this together. But like Enoch, the focus and the passion of the church must be to walk with God and to be pleasing to him. That was the way that Enoch walked with God. That was the way that Enoch was able to please God. And to do that, we must walk by faith. There's no other way. God has revealed himself to us so that we can know him and trust him and walk with him. Now, we need to know that the defining character of the church and that which set the church apart from the world, that which makes the church to be glorious, is that she worships God as God. She honors God as God. She honors the name of God. And she lives her life desiring to and pleasing God no matter what. And that is what set the church apart from the world. Now, let us move on. Let us move on to the next lesson that we can learn from the life of Enoch. Again, we are going to read Genesis chapter 5 and Hebrews chapter 11. And this time around, we are going to read from the New Living Translation. Genesis chapter 5, and I'm reading verses 23 to 24. Enoch lived 365 years, walking in close fellowship with God. Then one day, he disappeared because God took him. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 5, also in New Living Translation. It was by faith that Enoch was taken up to heaven without dying. He disappeared because God took him. For before he was taken, he was known as a person who pleased God. Before he was taken, he was known as a person who pleased God. Now, we want to look at another way in which Enoch is a type of the church. Another way in which his life mirrors that of the church. So this text that we have read said that one day Enoch just disappeared. We are not afforded the privilege of knowing the detail of this disappearance. We don't know where the event took place. We don't know whether it happened in the private or in the public. We are not told. Did anybody witness this event? How many people witnessed the event? We were not told. How did Enoch disappear? Was there fire? Was there lightning? Was there thunder? We are just not told. All we know is this, that one day Enoch just disappeared. Now, what I'm going to do now is to actually compare this event in the life of Enoch. I'm going to compare that and contrast it with another man that also did a disappearing act. Do you know who that is? Obviously, you know who that is. It's another man that walked with God. It is the man, the prophet Elijah. So we are going to read from the second book of Kings, and I'm going to read chapter 2. We'll read verse 1 for context, and then we'll read verses 9 to 11. And it came to pass, when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. Verse 9, and it came to pass, when they are gone over, that's over Jordan, that Elijah said unto Elisha, ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit come upon me. And he, Elijah, said, thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I'm taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Both Enoch and Elijah disappeared. Both of them were taken by God. But the biblical record of both events has striking contrast. So what I'm going to do today is point out those contrasts, and then we're going to stop. Next episode, by the grace of God, we'll begin to see the implication of this. So remember, there is a comparison. Both of them disappeared. Both of them were taken by God. But there is a little bit of a contrast. And the reason why we are studying this is because there's a lesson to be learned in this part of Enoch's life. Number one, Elijah stood in the office of a prophet. Elijah was a classical prophet. Okay. Now, even though the Bible tells us in the book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 14, that Enoch prophesied, but Enoch was not a classical prophet. Enoch did not stand in the office of a prophet. So that's the first, difference between both of them. Number two, now when you look at the story that we've just read, the taking of Elijah was described for us in detail. Now, this is very, very important. It was described for us in detail, and it was associated also with manifestation of symbolic element. We saw whirlwind, we saw horses, we saw fire, we saw chariot. That's what we see. But in the case of Enoch, the record of the taking up of the translation of Enoch was surprisingly devoid of any detail. The Bible did not describe the translation of Enoch to us in any detail. We just say Enoch walked with God, God took him. That is all. That is all the information that we were given. Contrast that with that of Elijah. I mean, there was the whole story of his taking. When you read the book of 2 Kings chapter 2, the whole chapter was dedicated to the translation of Elijah. How it took place, where it took place, who was there, and all those things. But we didn't have that information when we are looking at the story of Enoch. Now, number three, which I've already bumped in, is that when you look at the case of Elijah, many people seem to have known that Elijah was going to be taken by the Lord. Okay? Though probably it was not, they were not expecting the spectacular way in which God executed the evacuation of Elijah, even though they probably didn't know how God was going to execute it. But the point is that they knew that Elijah was going to be taken. Number one, Elijah himself knew. And when you read the story, you read that whole book of 2 Kings chapter 2. Read that whole book of 2 Kings chapter 2. You will see that Elijah himself knew. Elisha knew that his master was going to be taken. Then there was this curious group that is called the sons of the prophets. And this group, in at least two different cities, Bethel and Jericho, they also knew that Elijah was going to be taken. So when we read that record of Elijah's taking in the 2 Kings chapter 2, the Bible took the effort to let us know that the impending taking away of Elijah was a common knowledge in and among the prophetic cycle of his days. The people in the prophetic cycle of his days, they knew that Elijah was going to be taken. But then when we come to Enoch, when we read the story of Enoch, when we come to Enoch, we were given nothing. Okay, nobody knew that was going to, nothing, absolutely nothing. It was just nothing. Looking at the translation of Enoch. Lastly, you could say that Enoch was taken from among a crooked and polluted people. We've gone through that. That generation was just going away from God. So Enoch was translated out of the middle of a crooked and polluted people. Contrast that with Elijah. While Elijah was taken away from among a group of special people. Elijah was taken away from among the prophets, the son of the prophet. The people that were there was Elisha and the son of the prophet. So they saw him. So you will see that the taking away of Enoch and the taking away of Elijah, even though they compare to each other, but there are so many differences. So what do these all mean? Now, the point is really, really very important, because these two translations are actually messianic in their explanation. They are messianic in their application. That is what brought us here. Obviously, we are looking at Enoch, but it is important for us to also look at Elijah, and we are going to make an application of the messianic application of these events and see what lesson we are going to learn. We are going to stop there today by the grace of God, and next time we will come back to this spot. We will go over some of these differences again, and we'll begin to make some application. And if you are listening to me tonight and you are not born again, I want you to know that God loves you. He gave himself for you. Okay, he loves you. He loves us. He created us. He loves us. And things went bad, but because of his love for us, he came to help us, to redeem us. The world is messed up because we have gone away from him. But he wants us to come back home, and he wants to save us. All we need to do is to admit that we are sinners. We cannot help ourselves. Ask him to save us. He will save you. And then you'll become his son, his daughter. You'll become a citizen of his kingdom, even though you're still passing through the valley of shadow of death. But God will be there for you. And then when this is all over, because it's going to be over, you and I can spend eternity with him in the new heaven and the new earth. Do it right now.